The night was supposed to be ordinary. Rain fell in silver sheets across the quiet city streets, drumming against rooftops and running in streams along the sidewalks. Traffic was light, and most people hurried home, gripping their umbrellas tight and lowering their heads to avoid the storm. But for Daniel Crawford, nothing about this night would be ordinary. Daniel was not just any man. He was one of the city's most recognized millionaires, sharp, decisive, and known for his relentless pursuit of success. From an early age, he had climbed through hardship, clawing his way up with sheer determination until he built an empire in real estate. Yet for all his wealth, Daniel's life was strangely empty. His penthouse was filled with things but not people. His calendar was bursting with meetings but not memories. Tonight, as his black Bentley rolled slowly through the rain-slicked streets, he was thinking only about the deal he had just closed, another skyscraper project that would earn him millions more. That's when his driver, Marcus, slowed the car and muttered under his breath, "Sir, look." Daniel's eyes flicked up from his phone. At first he thought it was nothing, just dark shapes on the wet pavement. But then the headlights revealed the truth. An elderly couple lay collapsed at the edge of the sidewalk. The man's hand was stretched toward the woman, as if even in unconsciousness he was trying to shield her. Their clothes clung to their frail bodies, soaked through by the merciless rain. For a moment Daniel froze. His first instinct was disbelief. Why here, why now? The city was full of struggling people, but never had suffering been thrown so violently into his path. He felt a sharp twist in his chest, something he hadn't felt in years. Without thinking, he ordered Marcus to stop the car. "Pull over now." Marcus did as told, and before the tires even stopped, Daniel shoved the door open and stepped into the rain. Cold droplets instantly soaked his tailored suit, but he didn't care. He rushed to the couple, kneeling on the wet ground. The man was in his 70s, his face pale, lips trembling. The woman beside him was weaker still, her thin frame shaking as she clutched at her chest. They looked exhausted, hungry, and broken. "Sir, ma'am, can you hear me?" Daniel asked, his voice sharper than he intended, though not out of anger. Desperation gripped him. The old man stirred slightly, eyes fluttering open. "Please, my wife. She hasn't eaten in 2 days." Daniel's throat tightened. He had sat in boardrooms negotiating millions while these two, people the same age his late parents would have been, were starving in his city under his watch. He couldn't walk away. "Marcus," Daniel barked, "help me get them into the car." Within minutes, the couple was settled into the Bentley, wrapped in the warmth of the heated seats. Daniel tore off his suit jacket and draped it over the woman's shoulders, ignoring the absurdity of a millionaire giving up his $1,000 jacket for a stranger. As Marcus drove, Daniel leaned forward. "Where do you live?" he asked softly. The man coughed weakly. We don't have a home. We lost it last year. Been moving from shelter to shelter, but they were full tonight. We thought maybe we'd just sleep under the awning." His voice cracked. Daniel swallowed hard, memories flashing unbidden through his mind. His own parents had struggled once. He remembered nights when the pantry was empty, when his mother tried to stretch a single can of soup to feed 3 children. He remembered watching his father collapse from exhaustion after working 2 jobs. And he remembered his own vow, never again. He would escape poverty at any cost. He did. But in his climb, he had stopped looking back at the people who were still trapped in the rain. That night, Daniel didn't take them to a shelter. He didn't take them to the hospital first. He took them to his home. The couple gasped as they entered his penthouse, the warmth and luxury overwhelming compared to the cold streets. Marble floors gleamed under soft lighting, and the smell of freshly brewed coffee filled the air from the kitchen staff. Yet Daniel felt no pride, only shame. What good was all this wealth if it couldn't keep people like them from collapsing outside? "Sit," Daniel urged, guiding them to the couch. "You're safe here." His housekeeper hurried in with blankets and soup. The woman's hand shook as she took the bowl, but when the warmth touched her lips, tears rolled down her cheeks. "God bless you," she whispered. The old man gripped Daniel's hand. "Son, why would someone like you help people like us?" Daniel froze, the question cutting deep. For years, his world had been about profit, reputation, power. He had built walls around himself so high that nobody dared ask him such a simple human question. Why would he help? Because he saw his parents in them, because he saw himself, because he could no longer ignore it. "You don't need a reason to help someone," Daniel said finally, though his voice broke. The couple stayed the night in his home, but Daniel couldn't sleep. He paced the length of his study, staring out at the glittering skyline. Each light in the city represented a life, some warm and safe, others dark and forgotten. He had spent years building towers of glass, but now, for the first time, he wondered what those towers meant if they didn't shelter the people who needed it most. At dawn, he made a decision that would change his life. The following morning, Daniel personally drove the couple to the hospital for a full checkup. He covered every bill, ensuring they had proper treatment, food, and clothes. But he didn't stop there. He began to investigate why shelters were overflowing, why elderly couples like them were left on the streets. What he discovered shattered him. Underfunded programs, long waiting lists, and countless stories just as heartbreaking. The weight of it pressed down on him, but instead of breaking, it sparked something inside. For the first time in years, Daniel felt purpose beyond business. He called an emergency board meeting. His executives were baffled as he announced that a large portion of his company's profits would now be directed into building affordable housing and funding shelters. "This isn't charity," Daniel told them firmly. "This is responsibility. We can't keep building for the wealthy while ignoring the suffering outside our doors. We're better than that, or at least we should be." The board resisted. They argued about profit margins and investor backlash, but Daniel stood his ground. For once, his heart, not just his business sense, led the way. News spread quickly. The media painted him as a changed man, a millionaire with a conscience. But Daniel didn't care about headlines. He cared about the couple who had unknowingly saved him by collapsing outside his car. He visited them often as they recovered. Their names were Harold and Margaret, married 50 years. They had once owned a small bookstore, but when Margaret's health declined and medical bills piled up, they lost everything. Yet through it all, their love for each other never wavered. Daniel listened to their stories late into the night, humbled by their resilience. Weeks turned into months. With Daniel's support, Harold and Margaret moved into one of the first affordable apartments his company built. Daniel attended the opening ceremony quietly, standing at the back, his heart swelling as dozens of families stepped into safe, warm homes for the first time in years. One evening, as the sun set over the city, Margaret took Daniel's hand. "You didn't just save us," she said gently. "You saved yourself. You found what you'd been missing." Daniel's throat tightened, but he nodded. She was right. All his wealth, his success, his skyscrapers, none of it had filled the emptiness inside. But now, in giving, in helping, in connecting, he had found meaning again. Years later, Daniel's legacy was not just buildings that scraped the sky, but communities that thrived because he chose compassion over indifference. And though he remained a millionaire, he was remembered not for the fortune he built, but for the hearts he lifted. Because on one rainy night, he stopped in shock and chose to act. And that single choice changed everything.